In continuing this Build a Great Company series, I'm going to ask a question I've been asking for years of entrepreneurs, potential clients, actual clients, and that is, where are you headed? I found that if I knew the answer to that question as an outsourced CFO, I could produce returns 10, 20, 100, even 200 times the investment they were making in my services. If I didn't know the answer to that question, I just kind of floundered. And it would be 1 or 2 or 3x, but nothing significant. And I found the same to be true of their employees. Companies with employees that knew where the company was headed, much higher rates of return versus a company that didn't know where they were headed, employees didn't know where they were headed, and it kind of floundered. So I've seen both. Well, the most typical answer to that question that I've received is a metric. Like sales, like we're going to increase sales. Next year, we're going to double sales. You just watch. Or we want to add 50 new employees. Or we want to expand to every city in the state. You know, where we're headed, we're going to add 12 new trucks next year. We want to be able to handle 100 jobs at a time. We want to build another server farm. You know, those are all metrics. That's not direction. You go like, well, wait a minute. Why isn't that direction? It sounds directional to me. I'll give you an example. Let's say that you're packing your car to go on a trip. And I come walking up and I go, where are you headed? And you go, 930 miles. I'd go, 930 miles, which way? Or you might say, I go, where are you headed? You go, we're going to use 89 gallons of gas. You're like, okay, great. Or you might say, we're going to do this in one rest stop. We've got 14 sandwiches to eat on this trip. None of that tells me where you're headed. If you said, we're headed to St. Louis, I go, oh, okay, great. Have a great trip. That's the thing. That's easy if you're going on a trip, right? That's easy. But the problem is with a business, it's not so easy. It's a really hard question. So why the resistance? Well, I think for a lot of us, planning feels like a waste of time. In my conversations with entrepreneurs, here's something I typically hear. Well, George, look, I don't know what's going to happen 6 months from now or 12 months from now. Now people would say, well, who could see a pandemic coming? Well, who could foresee anything? You know, we can't know the future. I think one of the classic conversations is best illustrated by when I worked with Rackspace, and they wanted me to start using the Navigator, lead their offsites, and I needed direction. And they had a great vision, but we needed some really clear next level kinds of like 5 years out direction. And so to orient to the larger vision, which was 20 or 30 years. And they said, but George, you can't know that. I mean, technology is changing every 6 months. We don't even know what we'll be doing 6 months from now. I kept pressing, and I think it was a moment of frustration, frankly. And one of the top leaders said, I don't know, to become the number one in managed hosting. The second I heard that, I go, that's direction. Now, I don't know if it was the right direction in the moment. We would have to prove that out. Turned out it was. But that became the centerpiece for everything for the next 5 years. And we did have metrics that went to that. One of the things on the way to becoming the number one in managed hosting, which they actually did in 4 years instead of the planned 5, was there was a tech crash. Well, it's like the oil business or any other business. There are ups and downs, right? Well, no one foresaw that. But knowing direction actually helped us navigate through it. If you just had sales, let's say, as your direction, and you have a downturn, you're lost. What are you going to do? You don't know what to do. But if you know, wait a minute, our direction is to become number one, and look, we're looking for a sales here. Now, actually what happened was the downturn did affect sales. And so we missed the sales target by about 20%. But the point is that they still became the number one because there was other metrics that measured that. That's what direction does. It gives you the impetus to keep going. So if you're driving, well, the road's out. Okay. We're going to reroute. We're going to figure out another route, but we know where we're headed. We're headed there. And so we'll figure out a different route. If you're in a plane, for example, it's the same thing. If the plane's going from New York to California and there's storms in between, they're going to reroute the plane to avoid the storm somehow. So that's what direction does. I want to challenge you with an idea to test all this out and see if it makes a difference. If you don't have a real clear, and I'm not talking a vision mission statement, I'm not talking that. I call it envisioning. So in my book, it contains my whole next level navigator process, and the envisioning piece is really important. If you have a book, it's on page 128, is where I talk about it. Plus there's examples in the book, which I think are actually more helpful. We want the envisioning to be aspirational. We want it to be big. We want it to be huge. We want it to lift up. And we don't necessarily know what all it means. I want you to test this and see how it affects you. And just because the envisioning ties to passions of yours, your passions. I'll tell you, so for Live Truly Free, our direction is guiding entrepreneurs around the world into coming alive and their businesses into sustainable, profitable growth. Well, that's big, but it's sourced in our passion. We know that if you're not profitable or your growth is erratic and you're always worried about it, you're not going to be coming alive. I mean, you came into becoming an entrepreneur for the idea of living a full life, of having more than just a job and having impact of some kind, to transform, to change, to make better, are all aspirational kinds of things. Well, what are those things? And write them down, just kind of, and be focused on where are you headed. And with the Next Level Navigator process, we have stages of those. You can see that in some of the previous videos. Heck, get a copy of my book, The Next Level Entrepreneur. It's in here too. Another great resource for you to use. True envisioning is where you are headed. And you'll find hints of that direction in your passions, okay? So try that out, see how it works. I'd love for you to leave your visioning ideas in the comments or email me directly through the contact link. And I think if we can see other people's visioning, it's going to really encourage our own, okay? And even if you don't have a business endeavor right now, that's okay too. Go ahead and write down, what would you vision for that business endeavor? You will be amazed how transformative it is to have great direction. All right, so give that a try, and the next video is going to challenge you some more. So stay tuned for the next video. We're just going to keep building on this, because with direction, you need, well, you'll have to come and watch the next video. All right, see you next time. Bye.